Right, well, welcome back from our lunch adjournment. And we're moving on then to our next item in our agenda, which is the Fees and Charges 2022-23 Hearings Report. And we have Graham Pollard back. I understand Graham's online. Hello, Graham.
Hi, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. We've come to the hearing of the submissions on the fees and charges. We only had a couple this year and only one submitter wishes to be heard. I would like, if possible, to take the report as read, but there is one additional issue which we have noticed since the agenda was sent out, which is a small calculation error by one of the activity teams. A little bit embarrassing. You'll find it on page 690 of your agenda under the dog registration fees. This is the urban fees. We have a neutered rebate of $10, a fencing rebate of $15. Add them up, it comes to, funnily enough, $25, not the $27 as shown, and therefore the fully rebated registration should be $67, not $65, and with the 50% penalty added, it should be $100.50, not $97.50. So hopefully we can add that to the editorial amendments that are already in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Claire.
Yeah, did you check that they are supposed to add up? You know, like that it wasn't sort of an incentive to do both and so slightly more? You know, that they get a reduction?
This has come from the animal control team. They were the ones who spotted it. So okay. They would like it putting back to the $25.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, but fair question.
Excellent. Great, Graham. Was no other points you want to highlight on this before we before we move the recommendations A to C?
Obviously, we've got chair of the Cambridge Community Board wishing to speak, but other than that, I would like the committee to take the report as read, if you so wish.
Excellent. Just quickly, no questions for Graham in terms of his report before we move on? Okay, so obviously we've got a clutch of recommendations there. We'll just move A to C in order to receive the report and receive and consider the submissions, and to obviously hear from our only oral submitter, verbal submitter, Sue. So can I have somebody move those for me? Marcus, A to C. All those in favour say, oh, sorry, Liz is seconding. All those in favour say aye. Again, carried. So welcome, Sue. I believe you're visiting virtually today. Nice
yes,
to see
I
you.
am. Thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can,
fine.
Sue. You'll have,
right.
How many minutes did we decide?
Don't worry, it'll be brief.
Don't worry. You're 10 minutes, Sue. And no doubt there may be some questions of you. Take it away.
Thank you. One of the things that our board is very concerned about is the current library fees. We would prefer that there were no overdue fees, as some libraries up and down the country are doing now. Overdue fees become a disincentive, in fact, for many people to return a library book, and they end up with having to possibly pay an overdue charge plus all sorts of things. It's a disincentive for people to read, and when you consider that people are using libraries because they actually can't afford to buy a book often, to buy a book would cost on average these days $40, and so a library book is a good way of being able to catch up with what you want to read. And the other thing is, what happens is when somebody doesn't return a book, eventually there is this sort of an account is sent to them saying you haven't returned your book after so many weeks, months or whatever, and they receive an account for the cost of the book plus the $10 fee for processing that account. They might have been better off just waiving the fee because it just becomes another disincentive for people. But one way that could work, well, not necessarily work, but another scheme that the library has introduced recently is the Borrow 5 Books scheme, where you borrow a book, you've got a little piece of paper, and it's noted on this piece of paper each time you've borrowed a book until you've got 5. Once you've got 5 loans against on your little slip of paper, you're then eligible for 1 free loan. So could not that 1 free loan be used as a credit, perhaps, on your account, because it's not currently recorded on the library system, the number of loans you've had that they stamp your little yellow slip of paper as an odd scheme. It would be better if it was actually all lined up on the library database, so that perhaps after every 5th borrowing you get a free one, which would be probably go away some way to assuaging those people who feel that they shouldn't have to pay for a book. But one of the things that is happening worldwide is that library fees for borrowing a book are being dropped. And this is happening in Auckland and other places with some success. It's actually encouraging people to use the library more. So that's a good thing. One of the things that I did note was that sorry, I've lost track here. Yes. What is it actually costing us to process these books? And when we one of the things that came on was each day, or the library tots up how much they've received in the till, but if money in for fines or loans, but it doesn't actually specify how much of that daily total is actually for fines or for loans. So we really actually don't know how much we're getting back. I mean, we have an idea, but we actually don't know. I just think it would be easier for everybody, and it would be a service to the community, particularly at a time when a lot of people really cannot afford to go and buy a book. Sure, they can go to book sales and secondhand bookshops. We should be encouraging the use of libraries. It is a difficult issue. Up and down the country, there is a move to stop the fines for overdue library books. And I think that could go a long way. It's better to get the books back than have people hold on to them and stop using the library because they know if they go to the library, they're going to get fined even more. So I think, we should be seriously considering what other libraries are doing. And I think we're probably up to at least 1/3 of New Zealand's libraries have now dropped the overdue fines. So we could be like that too. There was one other thing I wanted to bring up as well, and that is the lighting charges for the Cambridge Town Hall facade and Cambridge Clock Tower. The lights for the clock tower, and I think particularly the clock tower, I'm not so sure about the front of the town hall, they seem to be outside the footprint of the property being administered by the Cambridge Town Hall Trust. So in that case, the fees and charges for the lighting should be set by council, not by the trust. So if we could do something about that, that would be very, very good for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Does anybody have any questions of Sue? She's obviously the chair of the Cambridge Community Board. Any questions for her? Yeah? No? Online, anybody out there with a question for Sue? No?
I would just like to say that I use the library all the time and I think it's great, and I think more councillors should use it.
I actually feel like I might be slightly conflicted here because I don't think I've ever got a library book out about having to pay an overdue fee. So I sort of feel like it's in my financial benefit to actually support this, but I probably shouldn't have said that. But no, look, it's certainly, I feel like we should be doing anything we can to encourage people to use our libraries and to read. It's, for a whole lot of reasons, good for the well-being of our community. So thank you for your consideration and submission, Sue, and that of your board. Any questions? Roger has a question for you.
I just endorse Sue's comments about the use of library, and certainly for Mokapuna that are coming visiting, it's great to take them down there and have access to as many kiddies books as you want.
I think they often don't they now describe libraries as sort of the living room of towns, of smaller towns, and it sort of is really now, isn't it? I mean, you only see that down at Te Awamutu with all the students and things there. So thank you very much, Sue. There being no further questions, I'll let you go if you want, but you're welcome to stay online.
No, thank you very much.
Fantastic. So
thank you.
Then I guess that means we move then into our deliberation phase. We have the two submissions there, obviously Sue's one on behalf of the Cambridge Community Board, which appears in our documents at page 676, and then the second one obviously from the Te Awamutu Community Board at just prior to that at 673. Have we got any discussion in respect of those in a global sense before we move on to the staff responses? No discussion regarding those. Okay, so we then look to the staff responses. Perhaps we'll handle the first one as it appears in our agenda at 675, page 675, the response there to Angela Holt's submission on behalf of the Te Awamutu Community Board regarding temporary traffic management plans. Any suggestions regards changes or concerns with that? No. Excellent. So that one's fine. And then the next one, of course, was Sue's one in respect of the libraries. You'll see there staff comments appearing on page 678. So staff, you'll see they support the removal of overdue fees on adult books in principle, but obviously time to review the cost implications of the library services and recommended this is investigated to inform the next annual plan. Therefore, they suggest there's to be no amendment to the schedule of fees and charges. So are we comfortable with that response? Yep.
Madam Chair, yes, I am happy. Like we've considered other requests by Sue or the community board in the past, and I've been really pleased with the approach that's been taken, because there's always a worry that we'll be losing revenue and could we afford it, and should it be subsidising the service and things. And the staff have always gone away and done a careful analysis, and I think that's what we need here. Just to see what the impact might be. And so I'm really happy to support what's proposed there as the staff response.
No, there being no changes, therefore, to those responses, I understand, we'll turn our mind then to the recommendations appearing at page 666. I understand there is to be a small change in respect of the matter raised by Graham regarding his presentation. Graham, did you want to make an addition?
Chair. There was also the point that the chair of the community board has just raised regarding the lighting of Cambridge Town Hall facade and the Cambridge Clock Tower. Now, they weren't actually part of a written submission, but I don't know whether that's been raised orally this afternoon, and I don't know whether you wish to consider that as well.
Have we anybody who's prepared to respond to that or give us a staff response? Ken?
Yes, I'm happy to do that, Chair. So look, likewise, I've only become aware of this just in the last few moments. Thank you, Sue, for raising it. Look, I think it is an appropriate concern to raise. As you've indicated, it probably should be council that is charging for those light up charges. Probably council rather than the Town Hall Trust. So look, as we finalise this document and bring it back to council for ultimate approval, let's have staff turn their mind to this and determine whether a fee should be set Yeah, you will recall, councillors, that that we did quite recently confirm that we would be charging in this space. So yeah, so I would see the setting of a fee as being quite consistent with that conversation.
I do actually have a draft for what this would look like. It's from staff emails on this matter. If I can share my screen, then you can read what that's going to look like.
Yeah, that would be helpful, Graham.
Okay. I can't share at the moment, unfortunately. It won't let me because somebody else is sharing, so that's probably the main meeting. So in a nutshell, the proposed fee for the event lighting for the town hall facade and Cambridge clock tower would be $250. Now that's two changes of lights, so for the event lighting and to end the event lighting. So that's what is included there. There are two paragraphs under Cambridge Town Hall, one to explain that higher fees are going to be the responsibility of the trust, but the external lighting is still the responsibility of council.
Okay.
It's a shame I can't actually share it. But the fee is $250. That's what is proposed.
So
unfortunately, the governance manager is now going to have kittens, because that's another change that we're going to have to make, I think.
She's having
Sorry about that,
in the
Jo.
corner.
Sorry.
Jo's just making some changes. So if we just pause for a short moment, and so she makes those changes to those recommendations.
Seems a little bit high, and I'm just wondering whether there's an ability to split, say, the charge. So if somebody just wants to light the town hall, then they're able to do that, and so it becomes 125 for the town hall, 125 for the clock tower, and combined it's 250. But it might make it. Sorry,
Ken.
Yes, so look, the charges are actually applied separately anyway. So yeah, so in some cases it is just the town hall, in some cases it is just the clock tower. So it is a per facility charge is how we apply it.
125 per facility.
Yeah. Yeah, look, yeah, through the chair, the detail of that I'm not aware of, unless you can help with that, Graham. I'm not sure if Graham can help with the actual quantum.
Through the chair, I'm afraid I can't help on that. This was just the response that I was sent. But if the committee is in favour of including this in the schedule of fees and charges, then we can confirm that through council at the end of the month when we come to officially adopt these and make sure everyone's comfortable with that. So we can look into how best we get an appropriate split there.
Excellent. And the amended recommendation will reflect that.
Good, that's fine. Thank you, Madam Chair.
error in the dog registration rebated registration fees prior to a meeting of the Waipa District Council to be held on 31 May 2022 to adopt the final fees and charges 2022-23. Does that all capture everything? Sorry, I shouldn't turn my back on you all. I'll be waving your arms around. Nobody online has any issues with the way that is worded? Nobody in here does. So we're comfortable with those amendments. They seem to be pretty straightforward and reflect the discussions that we've had. So with that said, have I somebody happy to move them? So that's D, E, F, and the new G. Marcus will move them. I'm happy to second them. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Excellent. Great work, team. I look forward to seeing that come back.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Graham. And thank you, Sue, if you're still there. I think she's gone, hasn't she? Right, so that then means we move on a little earlier than expected to our next item, which is the draft 2022-23 annual plan hearings report. And we have Haven here for this. Are you happy to present it? Oh, you're waving your arms around.
Yes, that's fine. Do I stay here or do I go up to the...
Stay there if you're happy there, Haven. Dawn was presenting from over there before. No point decamping. Excellent.
Okay.
So the floor is yours, Haven.
Thank you, Chairperson O'Regan. Okay, so yes, the purpose, of course, is just to begin the hearings and deliberations on the draft 22-23 annual plan. I won't speak to the whole report that's been drafted, but I will provide a bit of background context, speak about how we got to this point, feedback on some of the consultation that we received, and then talk a little bit about the procedure and process for the next couple of days, and then out to the end of June when we look to adopt the plan. Okay, so everyone will be familiar that late last year we began this project and we had staff and elected members work on preparing the draft annual plan. There was a series of workshops to pull that together. And then we brought it to the committee in mid-March alongside a consultation document seeking approval to open consultation on the draft annual plan. So that consultation did run from 18th of March through to 20th of April. And in it, there were those three key issues, okay? And the first one was around the Te Naroto Pirongia Cycleway. The second key issue was the recycling contamination. And then the third one was around the urban mobility program and Waka Kotahi no longer having funding for the next 3 years. So we were seeking the community's feedback on those three key issues. And we did highlight to some extent a bit of the economic volatility we've been seeing over the last wee while and some of the expectations for the next wee while as well. From the consultation process, we had it primarily online, so a little different to how we'd normally do it with COVID. There was the series of workshops, which I believe most people in this room were involved in to some extent. There were 9 webinars, and from that consultation process, we received 27 submissions and 54 submission points. Actually, half of those submission points were relative to the key topics in the consultation document, and the other half were for other issues and a few funding requests as well, which we will hear from a few of those submitters later on today. Right, so that essentially gets us to how we are at this point. And if we look ahead to the rest of the day and tomorrow, the hearings process and deliberations, we do have, we had 14 people indicating they wish to be heard, but after following up with them, we now have 11 submitters wishing to be heard in person. So we'll hear from them and they may wish to elaborate on their submission points. We've allocated 10 minutes for organisations to present their views, and individuals have been allocated 5 minutes. We've set it up so that we hear most of the organisations at the start and then the individuals towards the end. Yeah, in terms of next steps. So then we'll take a break and reconvene tomorrow for deliberations. And that's where the committee will consider all of the points they've heard in the written and oral submissions, and then go ahead and make those decisions. Following that, staff will update the draft annual plan and bring it back to this committee in early June, where we'll also ask the committee to make a formal recommendation to council, who will then be asked to adopt the draft annual plan at the end of June, I believe June 28th. So yeah, hopefully that covers off the process and procedure. Just want to check in with, we've got Kirsty here, and then Ken, if there's anything else that you would like to elaborate on or draw the committee's attention to at this point.
Ken? No, nothing, and nothing I believe from Kirsty. She would have yelled at us by now.
No, thank you.
Oh yes, she did appear.
So yeah, if there's any questions or discussion from the committee as well. Otherwise, we have the first submitter scheduled to arrive at 1:45.
Is everybody fine with that process? Excellent. I've actually waved a little bit of magic, and we're going to bring one of the submitters ahead of 1:45 to try and use our time a little bit more wisely, and that's the Waipa Community Trust. The two people who are presenting in person are our very own Ken Morris and Mayor Jim. So,
Chair, how convenient that the first submitter happened to be in the room already.
Well, you know, I
Okay,
do like
but,
being efficient with my time.
Yes, but look, I mean, very important to note in making this submission that I'm making this submission as the volunteer treasurer of this trust. Absolutely nothing to do with my my council position, obviously. So so submitting on behalf of the trustees of the trust for a relatively small funding stream to cover the minimal overhead costs of the trust. Just very quickly, reinforcing the submission that was made. So I guess an obvious question: why this request after 20 years of self-funding existence? I guess my answer to that is simply that times have changed considerably. So whereas this trust could previously run on about $300 per year, we can no longer run on $300 per year. We've had the introduction of, I guess, two quite significant streams of expenditure, and those are the audit fees and the accounting software fees. So accounting software fees used to do by spreadsheet, big advantage moving into a cloud accounting environment, and the audit fees simply the honorary auditor who did it for free for many years basically said they couldn't do that anymore. So so new costs have come on board, and I guess it got complicated just in the last couple of years with an extremely low interest rate environment. We used to make significant amounts of interest. Obviously that hasn't been the case for a couple of years, and COVID has certainly impacted other activity that generated commissions for us, essentially a perfect storm. But look, in good discussion with the trustees, even though those last two matters are potentially quite temporary, the trustees believe very strongly that we need to move this to a much more sustainable model going forward, and therefore the request. The last point, just to cover off on, I guess, another question: is this justified? I would say, as treasurer of the trust, absolutely it is justified. So this trust has been incredibly successful over the past 20 years in terms of being a vehicle for bringing external funding into Waipa projects. In the submission, you'll notice I listed just 6 projects. So this is not all of the projects of the trust that the trust has supported over the years. It was only 6 of them, admittedly some of the more major ones, but that was the $1.2 million of external fundraising that this trust assisted bringing in the door at incredibly minimal cost. So so I would say to you as committee members that any funding input from council, and bearing in mind we're only asking for a very small amount, will be well rewarded by far greater return in terms of external fundraising support for key community projects. And just in winding up, just noting very clearly that there is some conflicts of interest here. Those were acknowledged at the start of the meeting, but just reinforcing them again. His Worship the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor are both trustees of this trust. I am the treasurer, as noted before. So when it comes time for deliberations tomorrow, the three of us will exit the room for any deliberations on this matter. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ken. Very concise submission. Any questions for Ken? Roger.
Yeah. Thank you for your submission, Ken. And I really do empathise with you as a treasurer for a number of not-for-profits and community organisations. It's not an easy environment. On a couple, we've actually changed from requiring an audit to actually requiring a review. Is that enabled by your constitution, or is it worth looking at a constitutional change, because that'll assist with the ongoing cost, which is, you're right, it is considerable. I mean, it's in the thousands rather than the hundreds.
Yeah, so through the chair, I'll respond to that. Does the Constitution allow it? Actually, I don't know. I could certainly find that out and report back in advance of deliberations tomorrow. But I guess two things. First up, a review would still attract a fee. If we had an independent accounting firm, yes, it could well be a lesser fee. I appreciate that. I guess though the secondary consideration is I would, as a treasurer and in advising the trustees, I would be reluctant to walk away from an audit even if that was a possibility, because you've got to bear in mind here the key purpose of this trust. This trust is essentially a steward of fundraised monies. So that's what we do. We provide the stewardship of a whole lot of monies that are being raised from external sources. I think the trust's credibility could potentially be threatened if it moved from an audit to a review exercise in regard to its financial accounts or financial accountability. I think it would be very important that we remained with an audit.
I acknowledge your response and no need to come back with a clarification before review.
Andrew, I see you have your hand up.
Ken's just answered the point. Thanks.
Your accountants. Any other questions, relevant questions?
It's not a question, Madam Chair, just a comment. Look, I think it is a nominal amount in the overall scheme of our accounts, but it's incredibly important for community groups to be able to use this vehicle rather than having to set up their own organisations, trusts, etc. So for fundraising purposes. So I think it provides a real advantage to our community groups that are not registered societies in effect. So look, I think it's a good investment in the community.
Thanks, Jim. Any questions to Lou? Were you going to ask a question?
What I was going to say is I actually concur completely with what Mayor Jim just said, Madam Chair. Having set up a trust just recently for a poppy trust, I know the whole infrastructure we have to go through, and allowing a smaller organisation to access this facility, I think it's a great positive, and I would be very supportive of increasing that $300. So.
Fantastic. Right. Well, thank you for that, Ken, and your submission. Right. So that means, have we got anybody waiting? Yeah. Have we got anybody attending in terms of the Regional Council? No? Well, we might just have to take a brief pause until we have some submitters appear. We are running fractionally ahead of time. So how about we adjourn for about 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, 15 minutes. How does that sound? Excellent. We shall see you all back here at 1:45.